All righty. Welcome everyone to Screen Time with today's communique. I am so excited to have with us a very special guest today, Dr. Khiela Holmes, to talk all about what they have going on with the Arkansas Association of Black Psychology Professionals and a special event coming up to commemorate the 70th anniversary of Brown versus Board of Education of Topeka, Kansas. So welcome, Dr. Holmes.
Thank you for having me. So great to be here.
Absolutely. And so, for those of you who don't know, Brown versus Board of Education was a landmark decision that was decided in May of 1954. And it essentially says that state sanctioned public school segregation violated the 14th Amendment and was therefore unconstitutional. And we're about to embark on the 70th anniversary of that. And we want to talk all about that. But first, Dr. Holmes, tell us a little bit about you and your career path. And then, secondly, tell us what your association, Arkansas Association of Black Psychology Professionals, does in the state.
Right, absolutely, absolutely. So again, thank you for having me here and representing the Arkansas Association of Black Psychology Professionals. We've over the years have done a lot to want to engage with the community. So this is just great that we have this opportunity. So as you mentioned, my name is Dr. Holmes. I am a clinical psychologist, and just what I do personally, and a lot of psychology professionals in our organization, we provide therapy or counseling individuals as professionals. We do, not as the organization, but as professionals, we provide therapy or counseling. We are involved in research. We work in the schools. We work with families. We do consultation, and I do all of those things as well. So that's essentially my career path. My role within AABPP is vice president. So I'm vice president and been involved in leadership. Oh, I don't know, Kenya, maybe about, I don't know, 10 years now, potentially. So we've been an organization, I would say, since about 2010. So we're still quite a young organization, actually. And really, we started when we realized there were more Black psychology professionals in the state, because it's not very many of us, as people might know. It's not very many. So, but when we realized that the number was growing, and the need was already there to support the emotional wellness of our Black community. And then it was more of us in the psychology field, specifically to do that and then to support each other as Black psychology professionals. We were like, we need an organization and a way of doing this. So, as an organization, we've been doing that, like I say, since 2010. Our mission is to promote the mental health of the Black community in Arkansas through education, social change, advocacy, and professional development. And so professional development of Black psychology professionals. So that's what it is that we do. And we've been doing that for almost 15 years now.
Wow. For you guys to be such a young organization, you guys are always doing something. Every time you look on social media, we see announcements about events that you guys are hosting, either virtually. I know you guys did a lot of stuff virtually during the pandemic, and
Right.
pre-pandemic and post-pandemic, having all sorts of events to advocate and educate the community. So we want to applaud you guys for what you're doing for the community.
All
And
right. Thank you so much. And we appreciate the ongoing support from you and from others in the community as well.
yes, ma'am. And so, like we mentioned, we're coming up on the 70th anniversary of Brown versus Board of Education, and you guys are going to be commemorating that event. And so,
Right.
number one, tell us why it was important for the Arkansas Association of Black Psychology Professionals to commemorate the event, and then tell us about what we can expect for the day.
Yeah, absolutely. So, as a part of our organization, like we say, a very important mission is to educate, to raise awareness about things related to mental health, but really anything related to the wellness of the Black community. So, we feel like understanding how we got to where we are now, all the people that have paved the way, the trailblazers, the people that have really sacrificed. and really deeply invested into our community at that time, and then knowing that they were sowing a seed for going forward. These are conversations we need to have. These are conversations we need to know as psychology professionals, as Black people. We need to kind of understand our history, and I think it could be really inspirational. I think so. It could be really inspirational, and it could help us to kind of have a context for going forward. So I think that's sort of a segue into what people can expect. So part of what we're going to talk about, part of the objectives of this event is to talk about the historical context of the state of education for Black students at that time,
Right.
right? Like that's important to know. We think that's important to know even for young people now to understand this is the historical context. Just really just kind of understand that so they can appreciate that, they kind of value that, and then have context for what education looks like now. So we'll be talking about that as well. We'll be talking about what has the state of education been like 70, and what is it like now, 70 years post
Right.
Brown versus Board of Education, right? So we'll talk about the historical context then, and then what it looks like now. We'll discuss the role of very important psychological research that was the basis of this case, right? Of Brown versus Board of Education. And that's the other thing. Again, the word that I'm going to keep saying is inspirational, encouraging, motivating, right? Because there's a lot of people continuing to do this work now. And when I say this work, I'm talking about the work of equity in education.
Right.
That's what we'll be talking about: diversity, equity, inclusion, belonging in the educational setting, in interracial settings. So we want people to understand, people that are continuing to do this work, to kind of say, it's people that have gone before you, as they well know, and then to stay encouraged, stay inspired, so because it's work that needs to continue to be done, and especially for people who are interested, students who are interested in psychology and going forward in the field of psychology or mental health. They'll know it's people that's look like them that have been pioneers and trailblazers in the field before them, that have kind of paved the way, that they can build on that. So that's what people can expect. People can expect these type of very inspirational, educational, informative conversations about the historical context, about what's going on now. And then we'll also present personal narratives of desegregation of Central High School. And we'll discuss even the current racial climate now. So we'll have a range of speakers, Kenya. We're going to have a range of speakers, including Dr. Terrence Roberts, who was one of the members of the Little Rock Nine. He is a psychologist, so he'll be there with us. We'll have individuals such as, well, I can go through the whole list, but Dr. John Kirk, we'll have somebody, Loretta McGregor. We'll just have other people who can speak to they have very specific knowledge in kind of what was going on in the historical context then, and then what's going on now, and then just to help to bring that to life for us. So people can expect lots of information, inspiration, and engaging with other like-minded people.
You mentioned there's a lot to unpack there. I'll just
Okay, okay, yeah.
things. You talked about the psychological impact of this decision. Um,
Yes.
I don't think that most folks think about it in that context. And so
Mhm.
you could share with us, reflect with us for a moment or two about, just talk a little bit more about the psychological impact that you've learned that that particular case has had on society, and some of the reverberations that have carried on even now, the psychological impact that it has had on communities of color, on the Black community.
Oh, wow. That's a conversation. Well, I would say when people come, expect to learn more about that. And I'm going to say, hey, this is a learning experience for me as well. So I look forward to learning from it. But I think just based on my understanding kind of so far, I would say it's interesting because I'm sure it was very nuanced
Mhm.
and very different, right? So though obviously the what would I want to say, the potential, I don't even know if I want to use the word excitement, but the potential, maybe just maybe joy. It's hard to kind of think about. I don't want to like put a word to it of what people may experience, but it is something to celebrate. I would say that it is something to celebrate, a milestone occurred where the case of Plessy versus Ferguson was overturned.
Right.
Right, like that is a celebratory milestone that I'd imagine was something that was celebratory. And also in like the kind of the psychological or mental health world, then, you know, we have to think it's both and, right? It's a kind of duality that occurs, that it can be a celebratory milestone that we have to sit with and celebrate that milestone of board versus board of education. And at the same time, to understand that the process of integration impacted people in different ways, that for some people they would, you know, they would have to put words to that themselves in terms of what that meant to now be around people that don't like you and don't want you there,
Right.
right? So I would say, if I could just maybe sum it up like this, it was probably a duality of experience that included celebration, that included anxiety, that included probably some fear, anger, still wrapped in that. So I would imagine that the psychological impact was multifaceted and had layers to it. I don't know if that's kind of making sense, Kenya, but yeah.
It does. And I wonder if some of those same feelings are and emotions are just as fresh and relevant today as they were
Right.
70 years ago. And
Mm-hmm.
I'd be interested in learning what the speakers, your panelists and keynotes and breakout
Mm-hmm.
speakers would have to say about that. Or do you have any?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think my thoughts is I'm just as excited to hear what they have to say about it, the people that are more expert in this area than what I am. But absolutely, I think that's a very good point. And I think when we talk about the impact of these type of historical events on the Black community then and now, I think that's what we have to keep in mind, is that potentially this a similar, I might not say the same, but a similar kind of impact or emotional effect that it had then, emotional, psychological, mental, that it had then, is could be very similar to what people are experiencing now. So I do look forward to our list of speakers being able to kind of speak to that and help us to reflect on that in a safe, healthy way.
Right. So if you would share with us a few details about the day, the date, the time, the location, is there a cost and what the cost might be associated with it?
Yes, absolutely. So the date is going to be on Saturday, April 19th, of course, 2024, Saturday, April 19th, 2024 at Philander Smith University. So it'll be, you know, here in Little Rock, and we'll have people can attend in person or they can attend virtually. So
Oh,
the event registration starts at 8:30. It's from 8:30 to 9 o'clock, and the event itself goes from 9 to about 3:45 or so. So it's a full day event of unpacking all of what we discussed. And it probably to some degree, we're just going to be scratching the surface with a full day event, because we're going to unpack really a lot of what we discussed in this conversation today. The historical context, we'll talk about the role of Dr. Mamie Phipps Clark, the state of education now, the desegregation of Central High School. We'll have some panels. We'll talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion in education. So we'll be going through quite a bit of that. It's free of cost. Free
mm,
of cost. People can come free to the public. We'll have lunch available. We'll provide lunch. So we'll have a lunch break at about 12 o'clock or so. And so we'll provide that for people. So free to the public, in person, April 19th. Now there are limited seats available. So we encourage people, even though it's April 19th, as soon as they see this, please go ahead and just register, because we actually only have, I think, some spots available as people are already registering. Okay. So we encourage people, if they want to come in person, please go ahead and register. But if any reason the in-person seats are no longer available, please still attend virtually.
absolutely. I am excited that the excitement is already there and that you only have a few seats remaining. So that's good. So I would encourage folks when they see this to please go ahead and register so you can have your face in the place.
Yeah,
It's
that would be great. And if I could just say, can you just real quick, if people wonder, well, how do I register? They can go to Eventbrite. They register through Eventbrite, and they can just go and probably put in 70th commemoration, Brown versus Board, or something like that. Philander, it should be able to pop up. Of course, I think you mentioned we're on Facebook, Arkansas Association of Black Psychology Professionals. So, and we're on Instagram and YouTube. So people can, I think LinkedIn, so people can check us out there and then register that way as well. We also on our website, we have at arblackpsych.org, arblack, and then psych is psych.org. And then they can also find information about the event there.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So, Dr. Holmes, any closing thoughts about Arkansas Black psychology professionals or about the day, what we can expect? Closing thoughts.
Well, I would just say, just like we said earlier, for us being a fairly young organization and a small organization at that, it's been just a pleasure over the years being engaged with all the wonderful people. So we're going to have, of course, some of our members there. And this will be, honestly, Kenya, this will be our first in-person event since the pandemic. Our last in-person event was February 2020, right before at Philander as well. Philander has been a wonderful host to us on numerous occasions. So we want to highlight them. And so anyway, I think as AABPP, I think that's one of the things I want to highlight. This will be one of our first in person since 2020. So we look forward to that. And then we also, I think we just want to expect that people will learn. It may be some kind of emotionally sensitive topics that are discussed, but people will still learn and hopefully walk away feeling inspired to do the things that they have been called to do as it relates to the community and as the Black community. So we very much just look forward to having just folks there to engage and discuss and be inspired.
Wow. I am engaged, I am inspired, and I look
Mm.
forward to participating and learning from you all and the other presenters on Saturday, April 19th, on the campus of Philander Smith University to commemorate the 70th anniversary of Brown versus Board of Education. And with that, Dr. Holmes, that's a wrap.
Okay. Thank you so much.